Hey, thank you for joining us on another week of conversation on podcast here on this channel. It's a conversation podcast between me and my brother, and we just kind of talk about different topics each week. And today we're going to talk about something that we have been curious about, or at least had ideas in the back of our mind regarding a few of our favorite creators on YouTube that we've known for quite a long time, not personally, but we've followed their work for a long time.
Yeah.
It-
Well, I know you're briefly mentioning it, but just give a reason why we want to talk about this. Um,
yeah,
well, first let's talk about it's Rhett and Link.
yeah,
Their podcast Ear Biscuits. Lately, they're saying they want to get more personal
hmm
with their fans. Talk about more stuff that they've been kind of hiding from all their fans for years. And so lately on their Ear Biscuits, they've been coming out with these episodes. They call them the Lost Years, um,
hmm
talking about their time becoming uh, YouTubers
yeah,
and how they became YouTubers and transitioning from being engineers to YouTubers. What happened during
mm,
those years?
yeah,
So um, they have been talking about. Oh, before I get into that, we want to talk about them because we've been watching Good Mythical Morning for
since it
since the
started,
beginning.
before it
Yeah,
started.
we were
We've
fans with Good
yeah,
Morning Chia Lincoln, which
and a
was
lot of their music videos and stuff that they created.
stuff way before they got into Good Mythical Morning and all that, and we were like a basically a super fan for a long, long time.
Yeah,
So um, why we want to talk about them is because there are a lot of different reasons. One, because they're why now are they coming up and talking about personal things with them, and then also we've been vocal on our beliefs on what they were talking about on the podcast and everything on their stance. They were talking about religion and stuff, and them
hmm
becoming missionaries. So,
yeah.
how about you start off, Joseph?
Yeah, so kind of what you said, we've been fans for a long time. We have followed their work for a long time. They have been personal ever since the past couple years with their podcast. They have gotten into personal topics and they've been very open about, their lives and everything, which is very good. I mean, as fans, that's stuff that is interesting
Yeah,
to us. And just to see how like they interact running their business, being friends, having a business is being co-owners of a business like that. That's an
mm-hmm.
entertainment business. And just kind of following their work, their creative comedy work. And it's really cool to see that they kind of give us a behind the scenes storytelling aspect and their opinion of things with the podcast. So I know there's two things that they've mentioned in the past before this podcast that they don't like to talk about religion, they don't like to talk about politics.
Yeah,
And because that divides, which is a good rule. I mean, it is a good rule when you're creating entertainment. I don't fault them for that at all. And so when they decided a couple weeks ago that they're doing a multi-part series podcast on coming out each week about the topic of their spiritual background, their religious background, their specifically Christianity background.
mm-hmm.
It was exciting to hear and exciting to hear the conversation about them, and very interesting from someone like us who honestly, back at the beginning, when there were a few of the creators that had very clean content, and we were, fans of theirs when we were a lot younger. And
Yeah,
so that was content that we really thrived on because me and you have grown up as in a Christian environment. And so we really liked having content that is funny and consumable, but also is clean. I mean, we started watching them when we were like 10, 11, and 12. And
yeah,
um, so now that they're talking about this, and it kind of does hit home a little bit for me and you, and it
yeah,
touches very directly because it turns out they were raised in a very similar religious background as we have. And
yeah.
so Um, and yeah, like I guess one thing that we are interested in is the idea that we are starting this platform not really being secretive about our beliefs, yet they chose to hide it for so
Yeah,
long and a
definitely.
very big part of their life, you know? So what's some topics or ideas or thoughts that you have on them as creators or this decision for them to come out with it now?
Well, something that, and I don't know for sure this, just what I kind of gathered from
Mm-hmm.
what it seemed like they were talking about. The religious part of them, how they grew up and stuff. It seemed they said they were Baptist, and it seemed that they were very like Southern Baptist, like the Southern. I guess like they weren't Southern Baptist, but they were,
They
you
might have
know,
been. I don't know.
yeah,
They didn't really
um,
mention that.
very like when you talk about Baptists, especially people who are in the South, you have a lot of people that are very, the best word is very legalistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and when you go off and do certain things like videos, not just videos, not saying that they're saying that is bad, but there's a lot of people that they have a very strong mindset towards things that are
Mm-hmm.
fine and there's nothing wrong with them, but they're like, oh, this isn't like what we used to do. This isn't the same thing as we always did. So
Yeah.
to me, it seemed like when they went off and did video stuff, they're like, ooh, this is new. This is different. So I feel like they probably had a little bit of judgment when they went off and
Mm-hmm.
did that.
Yeah.
Did you feel that when you were listening to them talking about the podcast?
Yeah, I think one thing that I am very thankful about the way they're handling this topic is they are not bad mouthing people that they are around.
Yeah,
They're not coming in and talking a bunch of crap about their experience. They're not saying that it was terrible or judging and being having animosity towards people that they are around. Even
yeah,
if there probably was issues in the past in regarding this topic. So they're being very respectful when talking about it, and I appreciate that. Um, yeah, there probably was an aspect, especially as they were getting older, and then as they talked about, there was this transition period that they started becoming. They were actually, working for Campus Crusade for a while, and
yeah.
and if you're not familiar with that, they explain it in their podcast. Their podcast is called Ear Biscuits. If you don't know what they are, but you
Yeah,
can you
if
can
you want to listen to those
listen.
podcasts if you're
Yeah,
interested. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean we're obviously responding and reacting to these podcasts, so you won't have a whole lot of context if you don't know where to find it.
Yeah.
Um, but they were like working on in the ministry for Campus Crusades in their early 20s, and they got married in their early 20s, and so it was all during that time period, and they started getting really into creating content and creating videos and doing more performance based comedy to help sort of, I guess, make the idea of sharing the gospel a little bit more fun in an
Yeah.
environment, bringing the fun to and the laughter and the excitement to the topic for people who are either, already in the Christian faith or people who might be interested in it. And so that was something like me and you have seen that kind of stuff at camps and
Yeah.
whatnot, bringing, videos and performances and all different kinds of stuff, comedy focused things, and helps just give some clean yet fun atmosphere to the whole idea of the Christian faith.
Yeah.
And that was kind of their goal, and that's kind of what's put them on a path to do what they're doing now. And so there probably was a good bit of judgment at during that time period when they were kind of finishing up and leaving Campus Crusade and going on and doing their own thing, that they kind of
Yeah.
pulling away from that environment and just going to um, strictly more just entertainment content for any the world's audience online. And so
Yeah.
I'm sure there was an aspect of, why are you doing it this? Why you can have such a more bigger impact if you stay and do it for Campus Crusade or you do it in a ministry setting instead of just doing it as like a business.
Yeah.
Um, they don't talk about that, but I'm sure there was that, because that's something that we are familiar with from our groups, you know.
Yes, and they also said they personally had a good relationship, but
Mm-hmm.
they also, I feel like everybody when they're growing up, um, they have kind of those people they look up to, and
Yeah.
even they talked about in the past, like their Rhett's dad
Mm-hmm.
influenced them to go into what they did in school, because even though they wanted to do
Engineers.
like, yes, engineers,
Engineers.
even though they wanted to do like some sort of video or like entertainment stuff, he influenced them to not do that because he didn't he just thought, I guess, there wasn't a good future in that.
Mm-hmm.
um and I don't know if that is what like held apart in them wanting to
Yeah.
do like missionary work and
They
and
they did not
going
have
forward
a.
with that.
It seems like they didn't have a big support system with their creative endeavors. You know,
Yeah,
they would see success when they did it in the ministry setting that they were doing it in, but they didn't see a lot of support until much later for that endeavor. You know,
yeah.
um, and so I guess in light of what we're doing, what are some things that you either resonate or just thoughts about, how it corresponds not with us directly, but kind of what we're doing here, growing our own entertainment company, and also having a background in Christian faith and whatnot.
Well, I mean, we don't hide anything. I don't think Ren
Mm-hmm.
like really hid anything either, but they weren't vocal about it because they
They
didn't. They were
chose not
like,
to talk about
yeah,
it.
they chose not to talk about it. Us, we will talk about it, but we also make films and we say, hey, yes, this is what we believe. This is what we are doing with videos and everything. But they don't have to be the same thing. We don't have to be missionaries and go make videos to do
Mm-hmm.
filmmaking. We can enjoy doing films and making films, but still have that side where we um, religious and we still do all these
Yeah.
things that we talk about. We don't have to make Christian films. We can make films. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's something I guess that we just growing up and stuff. We kind of learned that and how we were raised and everything. Because I know
Mm-hmm.
just growing up, we were always doing like the weird thing. We were always the weird one out. Like we would, I remember we went to church and we just like got like blonde highlights, and everybody at our church was like, "What the heck? You guys
Yeah.
are the only two guys at the church," and we had like blonde highlights and everything. But we were just like,
A little
just
bit more self thinkers.
yeah.
you
But
know
we still were like, I mean, we did our own thing, but we still like proclaimed and everything that we were Christians and everything. It wasn't like
hmm
we shunned that part of us and that we
yeah,
didn't believe in
yeah.
everything.
And we still don't shun that part of us at
Yeah,
all. I don't want it to make it sound like we're necessarily falling into the same category as Rhett
yeah,
and Lynn.
no,
We're
definitely
not.
not.
We're still much involved with our faith, and we're not rejecting that at all. We're just interested, although that might be the path leading towards agnostic ideas that they might fall into now.
Yeah,
That's not to say that we are doing the same at all. We're not doing the same, but we're also something that is interesting, that we're starting this company and saying, okay, we don't have to be influenced necessarily by our faith to determine what kind of stuff we create. I'm
yeah,
sure it influences certain parts, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, but um, just simply from a morality standpoint, but not necessarily like a Christian message standpoint.
yeah.
Um, and
And
so, go ahead.
that, I mean, that was what I wanted to talk about is how um, just the way we believe, but then react to them and how
hmm
they were saying that they grew up and everything and how everything just fell together with what you're saying.
I am curious to know, because they've gotten to the point that I understand their urge to want tell this story, because they've been
Yeah.
saying for years that they just went from um, engineering to doing online videos, and that wasn't the truth. There was a whole ministry related period of their life. Um, but I am interested to know why it was that they just decided to talk about it now um, when they are, I guess, clearly not in that aspect of their life anymore, and they do have a successful entertainment company, and they are creating really cool things. Why share that aspect? I know they said they, at the beginning of this podcast, they would interview people and get really personal, and they felt like they weren't doing that themselves on their own podcast. I'm not really sure exactly, because I'm still fans of theirs.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm
I'm not
still
saying any
I'm still
that we
gonna
aren't.
watch their content. That is not in any way, and I'm not upset for them for sharing where they're at. And they're also, they seem to be not really closed minded to the Christian faith. It just seems that they have, personally, through life experience and life education, that it it doesn't seem to fall to what they are choosing for themselves. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's that. I don't fault them for that. Um, so well, I don't know. What are your thoughts about this? Because I know you brought up the topic and you were interested in talking about it. So what is something that specific that you are having thoughts on in regards to them coming out right now?
I mean, they're getting very personal, and that was part of what they said. They wanted to get personal and talk about it, even though because they never have in the past. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for them, I think it's kind of a way to maybe just talk about it and heal from what they went through and everything. Going and they also moved to California during that time, so that's what um, they said kind of got them away from being in the South and everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I I guess, go ahead. What Finish your
no,
thought.
I wasn't going to say anything. Go ahead.
Well, I guess kind of the thing that me and you reflect on is the fact of how we are conducting ourselves and trying to get an entertainment business going, and how
Yeah,
they conducted themselves getting an entertainment business going. We aren't intending to do the same thing as them, but it's interesting because they are two individuals who start an entertainment business, and they started with a Christian foundation a good many years obviously ahead of us. um,
yeah,
and
basically,
so
yeah,
how we are analyzing how they got started, it's interesting for us to kind of contemplate and analyze how we are getting started, and how we're not necessarily keeping anything secret about us personally, but also kind of taking the mindset of that doesn't necessarily have to affect our content, similar to what they did at the beginning of theirs as well.
yeah.
Um,
Basically, that's kind of what I was getting at when I said we wanted to react. That plus
yeah,
just because we were such fans for so long and wanting to talk about something that we were interested in.
yeah,
Because I mean, yes, this is a YouTube channel. Yes, we make videos. We're filmmakers, but this YouTube
hmm,
channel is just also us showing what we're interested in. You guys get to know a little
yeah,
bit more about the creators of Wise Works. So
yeah,
us
and just
reacting to this is kind of also just you seeing what we're interested in and knowing the path we're coming from.
Yeah. I think it's also important too to know that, um, we don't hold the same ideas that they came into their entertainment business having. They were under the opinion that if you talk about religion or you talk about politics, that divides an audience. Maybe with politics. I don't think we're necessarily going to delve into politics much at Wise Works Entertainment. I think that's something that we're just going to not touch or not deal with. And because everyone's opinion's so different, and you can't really be sure whose opinion's right all the time. And so, but as far as this goes, we believe, um, that just because our personal beliefs doesn't necessarily affect how people can enjoy the stuff we create. Yes,
Yeah,
similar to Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson has been a Catholic in the entertainment filmmaking world for a long time. He's made movies like The Passion of the Christ. He's made
The
other movies, but
Patriot.
then he's also just, yeah, The Patriot. He's made movies and been in movies that are just good movies, and
Yeah.
yet that doesn't necessarily affect his personal beliefs, doesn't necessarily always affect how the audience enjoys his content. Um, and if you're interested in us as creators, then yeah, we want to be open about those kind of things that we do hold personally. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to affect what we create. That doesn't mean that our audience can't just enjoy what we create. We are creating an entertainment company. We're not creating you know, a little bubble of people that have to agree with each other. We just want to be entertainers and try to make the world a little bit more exciting, a little bit more happy, and try to make a difference there, but not necessarily because, or not necessarily with, our personal beliefs at the forefront.
Yeah. So I guess just to close off, that was a good closer, to kind of give you our beliefs and everything, and talk about why we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So
I guess we hope that.
yeah,
go
I think
ahead.
you closed it off very good. So we're
right.
running a little fast over time. So
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this talk. I hope you guys enjoyed
Yeah.
getting to know us a little bit better and our thoughts on this kind of stuff. And we hope to see you in the very next video.
Yep.